Major funding for these broadcasts is made possible by grants from Capital One Bank and Chase Commercial Term Lending, the Witkoff Group, New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, Greenberg Traurig, Perfect Building Maintenance, Genova Burns. Additional funding is provided by grants from AKA Hotels, Corman Communities, Aerial Property Advisors, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Colliers International NYC, CPEX Real Estate Services, Cushman & Wakefield, Customers Bank, DDG, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Fisher Brothers, First Nationwide Title Agency, Flushing Bank, Foley & Lardner, Friedman, Handler Real Estate Organization, HAP Investment Developers, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, James Orphanides, Chairman, USRealty.com, Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's Window Company, Madison Realty Capital, Massey-Knackle Realty Services, Matone Group, Mercantile Commerce Bank, N.A., Meridian Capital Group, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, Newbanks, MHP Real Estate Services, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rosewood Realty Group, SJP Properties, Sterling National Bank, Sterling Risk, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Continuum Company, the CUNY TV Foundation, the Moynihan Group, and these friends.
My crystal apple says, maybe I'll play red, maybe I'll play black. I don't know, but there's a lot of things happening in the Garden State of New Jersey. And the biggest item is gaming. So today, due to the help of my friend Mr. Amato, my executive producer, we're talking about the future, the current and the future state of gaming industry in the Garden State of New Jersey. I'm fortunate to have New Jersey Assemblyman Ralph Caputo.
Nice to see you, Mike.
Same over here. Bill Pasquarello, who's also under the name of BP3, we'll figure that out, a principal at
Princeton Public Affairs Group.
Public Affairs Group. Dennis Drasden, who is an attorney at
Dresden and Warsaw.
Dresden and Warsaw, but he's really very involved with Monmouth and numerous areas. You're in the Horseman organization. What's the name of it?
Yeah, I am the advisor to the Monmouth Park Racetrack, the New Jersey Thoroughbred Horsemen's Association, and Derby Development, which is the operator of the track.
And last but not least, as I said, of counsel to the law firm of Genova Burns, Nick Amato. So you've been instrumental over the years for legislation. Talk to me about what's really happening. You know, there's sports betting, there's horses, there's casinos, there are other ideas. You know, the only casino we right now have is Atlantic City with the casinos, and everybody knows or they read about the good and the bad and the indifferent. We know there's tracks, we know there's off-track betting that we'll talk about in other areas, but what's happening today with regard to the gaming business?
Well, there's a major discussion in terms of how we expand gaming because of the deterioration of gaming as has occurred in Atlantic City. And the legislature's been dealing with this problem over the last couple of years. And we've had many people that have see it something that should be done, and some people don't think it should be done. But we have proposed an amendment, constitutional amendment, that we wanted to go on the ballot for this November. We're pushing that. We're not allowing it. We don't have enough time at this point. The window is somewhat shut. But the fight will continue in terms of that concept. So I think everybody understands.
Now, what is the constitutional amendment that you're trying to get passed?
The original one was to have 3 casinos in northern New Jersey, up to 3. Preferably, they would be market timed. The best spot, I think everybody agrees, would have been the Meadowlands, and Jersey City second, and maybe one in Essex. But that would be after one would be built, and it would be an independent market study to determine whether or not another one would be suitable.
Now, that's casino. What happened last year, or 2013, with regard to gaming industry in New Jersey?
Well, when Governor Christie came to office in January 2010, there had been a lot of spade work done by a former colleague of Ralph's, Anthony Impreveduto, who introduced the first internet gaming bill in New Jersey in 2000. I got involved in January 2010, and after an absolute veto by the governor later that year, we brought it back, and New Jersey now is one of 3 states in the nation, Delaware and Nevada being the other 2, who have full-blown intrastate internet gaming.
Now, explain to my viewers and myself, what is intrastate
internet gaming? So any casino game that's currently on the floor in Atlantic City can also be done on the internet. There's a couple of conditions. It can only be done when you're in the state of New Jersey. You don't have to be a resident. You have to be 21 and in the borders of the state. And the technology...
Do you have to be a resident?
You do not have to be a resident. You have to be 21 and within the borders of the state of New Jersey. And basically, any of the games in the casino can be played on the internet real time. So whether it's Texas Hold'em, Baccarat, Blackjack, Roulette, the craps, the whole 9 yards. So we're now in our 2nd year of internet gaming, and there were 2 things that were done which I think were important at the time. One was a requirement that the internet companies, the majority of whom come from Europe, the internet industry was really founded in Israel about 25 years ago by the Sage software writers, Peer Software being one of them, the founder of PokerStars. The other requirement that I think is very, very important to focus on is the internet skin, the company, the gaming company, has to be partnered with a brick-and-mortar casino in Atlantic City. So there were arguments that this was going to cannibalize Atlantic City. It has not done that. As a matter of fact, even though it's been a very pedestrian crawl and rollout, it's in its nascent form right now, it's doing better. It's about 18% above where it was last year. And there's 2 particular problems.
Now explain to me, I know Borgata is probably the biggest on the gaming?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, there's 5 skins in the game right now.
Okay, so is it the 5 casinos?
No, every casino does not have one. Resorts, which just launched their own product, is about to launch soon, hoping sometime late 3rd quarter with PokerStars. I'm sorry, but you were going to ask a question.
No, I'm trying to understand. So the internet company has a relationship with the casino?
It's a partnership so that the operators of the Borgata website is an internet gaming company from Europe. And so you go online and you play Borgata, but it's really the company, the internet company behind that that's running.
So they're joint venture in a partnership.
They're JVs, right, with rev shares. And
so here is the question, which I relate to the other people in the thing. We have gaming. We have to help the state. Right. One of the big questions, which is what I believe you've said in your bill, is the amount of jobs that can be created by the casinos, by the entertainment centers, by the additional things that can be built around the casinos. Because it's not only casino. If you look at Atlantic City, if you look at Las Vegas, you see it's a world business, okay? It's a destination. People come there. It's good for industry. They're continuing to build. It's good for labor. It's good for a variety of other things. How today does internet gambling help the state? Is there a share to the state? Well, is there a share to the community, and so on?
Well, number one, I love Bill, and I have a lot of respect for his knowledge and the fact that he represented some very powerful clients. And the concept of internet gaming was controversial from the beginning because any change in gaming, according to the Constitution, you need to have a referendum. Somehow this was avoided by the proper, appropriate opinions that were submitted to the committees, et cetera. I had some objection to it because I thought at that time it would lead to some cannibalization of Atlantic City. Less people traveling there, less people gambling there, less people going to the restaurants there. Of course, the legislature didn't see it that way. I don't think we've ever reached it is growing, as Bill said, but we have not reached the original projections.
Does Atlantic City
So I don't know whether or not.
Does Atlantic City get a piece of the action?
The city, no. The
state does.
The state does.
It's an
15%.
18% tax.
How much is it?
18.
18%.
Now, what does the state get of a percentage in the horse race business?
In the horse racing business, the state basically subsidized racing for a long time. So the state was dependent upon the racetracks in order to generate revenues, in order to help avoid paying less into it. Governor Christie decided in 2011 that he was no longer going to use taxpayer money to fund racetracks. And he decided that he needed to privatize both racetracks, both the Meadowlands and Monmouth Park. At the time, I was chairman of the New Jersey Racing Commission. I came off the Racing Commission to lead the New Jersey Thoroughbred Horsemen in acquiring a lease from the state in order to be self-sufficient and run racing. For many, many years, I've been working on this since the late 90s, trying to expand gaming outside of Atlantic City to the racetracks, Meadowlands and Monmouth Park.
Now, but isn't there Freehold in New Jersey also?
Freehold also is a harness track that's in Monmouth County. And the concept that always existed was you need 3 people basically to expand gaming, in addition to the voters. You need a governor to support it. You need the Senate president to post the bill. You need the Assembly speaker to post the bill. So many, many years we had 2, but never 3. So we needed to find a new way to try and increase revenues. Along came sports betting. Sports betting is a $400 billion industry.
Which is different than internet.
Absolutely, yeah.
A different concept.
And it's mostly illegal. It's offshore and it's run by the mob, so to speak, or illicit gaming. And what we wanted to do, with the support of the governor and the legislature, was to capitalize on this for New Jersey. So they did have a constitutional referendum. The voters voted that they wanted to legalize sports betting. We passed that, and Monmouth Park, which is where I operate out of as their advisor, decided we're going to do this. Everyone else, the casinos and the other racetracks, said, we're not going to do this because we have licenses in other states. We're concerned about regulatory problems that we might have. Let's let Monmouth Park be the test case. We'll see what happens.
So today, Monmouth Park has the right to do sports betting?
No. What happened is that the governor's first bill, as soon as we said at Monmouth we're going to open up, the leagues, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, and the NCAA filed suit seeking to stop us. And they were successful. But what happened is the Third Circuit Court of Appeals said that it's up to each state to determine the contours of gaming within their own state. There's nothing that prevents you from repealing the laws that prohibit gaming. The United States of America, the Solicitor General, in his brief to the Supreme Court, when we tried to go higher, said no, New Jersey is free to repeal in whole or in part the laws that prohibit sports betting. So the next thing that happened is our legislature decided that they would give us that opportunity. They took exactly what the Third Circuit said we could do. They drafted another bill. It went through in record time, 48 hours, onto the governor's desk. And eventually there became another test case to say, okay, now we've done what the Third Circuit said. Where do we stand? And the Third Circuit should rule on this case anytime within the next several days to several weeks. What I anticipate is that the court should very well say, given the history of the case, that one of 2 things they'll say. They'll either say New Jersey's attempt is okay, you can go ahead and operate, or it's more likely, from what I see, that they'll give us a roadmap that even if they say you're not quite there, you need to fix it in the following respects, then the legislature will again draft a new bill to conform to the court decision, onto the governor, signature, law, sports betting by September.
So you believe that sports betting will be allowed in New Jersey by September?
I do.
Now, what about your thoughts about this? Do you think the sports betting will be accepted?
Absolutely. I do, because I believe that I followed the case with Dennis, and it's an interesting concept because there is no reason why it should not be.
Today, where is sports betting in the United States? Where is it allowed today?
Delaware and Nevada.
And
isn't that outrageous, Michael, though?
Yeah.
I mean,
so Delaware.
there's only two
I mean,
states
Delaware.
that can-
Wait. Delaware. And
There are
Nevada.
4 states.
I mean, I can understand Nevada, but when I hear Delaware, I just.
Well, Oregon.
And Colorado.
There are
no,
4,
not Colorado. Oregon.
It's Montana. and
Canada.
Oregon.
Montana.
There are 4 states where it's
But only
legal,
2 do it.
but only 2 do it, and Delaware is a parlay game. The main sports betting in this country now takes place in Las Vegas,
But it takes place at the casino.
Correct.
In Las Vegas. The
Unless
sports betting that we're talking about in New Jersey is going to take place at the racetrack, or is it going to be allowed over the internet?
live at racetracks and casinos, trying to bring the customers back to the
Right, which is good because it's going to create jobs. Because if it's done at the casino, at the racetrack or the casino.
But the interesting part of all this, is that although the leagues were vehemently opposed to this for a long time, now you see Commissioner Silver from the NBA come out and say, I want to legalize this. I want Congress to change things.
I mean,
What
you're saying is, look, this business has been around illegal since the beginning of time. I hate to say to you,
That's true.
I mean, the betting has always been there. Sports betting has been a big item. Vegas has always been the home of sports betting, and people would go there. There was even an NBC series about this sports betting guy who made a living by being a sports betting agent. So sports betting has been around, and if you have the casino, if you have the off-track betting, if you have those endeavors right now, why shouldn't they have the sports betting?
What you're saying is it's inevitable. Just when is it going to happen?
It's not a question of if, but when.
It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
And the tragedy is this law has been in place for 24 years. It was passed in the early 90s. Governor Florio was the governor. He would have supported it, but the speaker at the time refused to put it on a ballot. And since then, we've been kind of locked and chained in New Jersey from doing this. It would be a big boom for the casino industry. It'd be a big boom for the racetracks, and it's already happening anyway.
The people didn't get a chance to vote on it because Torricelli put a bill in, former Senator Torricelli, that gave New Jersey a 1-year window in which to vote on it. Unfortunately, there was an election going on between Christine Todd Whitman and Florio, and the speaker did not want a big vote coming out, so therefore he would not post the bill. So the people of New Jersey never got a chance to vote on it. That's
and the hypocrisy of all this is that the same leagues that are attempting to stop us engage in games in countries where they permit it, and they've purchased equity positions in fantasy sports, which
Major
is
League
real
Baseball
gaming.
is a business of so many magnitudes that people don't realize. MajorLeagueBaseball.com is more profitable than the entire Major League Baseball system for their different products.
The leagues take the position that it would be bad for the youth of America. Okay? Now, probably one of the most addictive form of gaming known is the lottery. People bet the lottery because that's their dream.
Right, it's the opportunity.
Okay.
You can walk in.
If you were to go on the internet and you would do some research, you will find that a lot of major sports teams do commercials, which they get paid for, in uniform for the lottery. Now, how does that tell the youth of America if I'm a fan of the Minnesota Vikings and I'm in uniform? I'm saying pay the lottery.
But let's bring out the lottery. Okay, there's the New Jersey lottery, and isn't there the Powerball lottery, which is throughout many states? What is the Powerball lottery?
Just accumulation of state lotteries, several state lotteries together to form bigger pots to attract more people.
Now, how do the states benefit on when you're doing these lotteries, when you're doing this gaming, when you're doing all this type of business, what's filtering back to the government?
Half on lottery.
Depends on how it's set up. But I want to get back to the point that Dennis was. The hypocrisy is so profound. Look, we're talking about environmental legitimacy. I could go to Las Vegas and be the same person I am here in New Jersey and bet on a game, it's fine. If I walk across the border, I'm going to go to jail. So we're talking about environmental law. In other words, environmental creating situations where certain people benefit, certain people don't. You're punished under one set of rules and you're not under another. So it doesn't make any sense.
I don't want to make the analogy with the cannabis business, but in certain ways we're
same thing.
The same way. Okay, we go to Colorado, and in Colorado they can't take deposits, the banks, from the cannabis. They can't take credit cards. So these people have to have security guards around the clock because they're worried about the amount of things.
But Michael, there's a big difference between cannabis, which I do work for the cannabis industry. I'm very well ensconced in this issue. There's a big difference between cannabis and sports betting. Under federal law, there's only a couple of states that can do it, to the exclusion of others. That's not the case. It's a states' rights issue. Any state in the nation right now can pass a recreational marijuana law. We have medical marijuana in New Jersey. We just happen to have a governor that's running for president that doesn't want to consider the issue. When we have a Democratic governor in a couple of years, which I believe we will, you'll see recreational marijuana in a matter of no time.
Now,
for two reasons. The same reason why you're going to have sports betting, the same reason why you're going to have casinos in North Jersey, the same reason why Dennis should be able to have a casino gaming at Monmouth Park, jobs and revenue. Those are the reasons.
You know what? The country has been built on jobs and revenue, okay? And you need jobs to take care of the people over here. You don't need unemployment, okay? Part of the problem that you have in Atlantic City is that they haven't created, they started something and then it turned.
In 2000,
I'm sorry, I know you were counsel to.
No. In 2006, the casino industry was intoxicated by its own success. You couldn't make a mistake, no matter what we did. Okay? Then what happens? Pennsylvania gets slots. And in 6 years, they ate our lunch. And we went from number 2 gaming venue to number 3. If you go back further than that, and we never saw it coming because we weren't paying attention, or the recession had something to do with it also.
No question.
Okay. In 1995, a respected gaming analyst by the name of W. Bruce Turner worked for Salomon Brothers, right? He wrote a 60-page booklet on Atlantic City worthy of a second look. And he analyzed everything and said that, and he was one of the most renowned analysts. He went on to become, I think, with G-Tech, and after he retired very young. He said he wasn't worried about Pennsylvania, maybe 12 or 14% of the business. And at that time, we were so overly regulated in Atlantic City. They would regulate the type of tile we had on the floor. They would regulate who was in the kitchen. And in order to try to meet what was coming, there was a complete overhaul of the regulations, which the casino industry supported. And then right after that we were unbelievable, right? We couldn't make a mistake. Then all of a sudden, we went from $5.2 billion a year to $2.8 billion. We lost 50% of our business.
But it isn't part of that, we're talking about Delaware, we're talking about Pennsylvania, now we're talking about Massachusetts, Connecticut's had it with the Indian tribes. Mm-hmm. How many states of the 50 states have casino approvals right now?
There's only 2 that don't have it. Hawaii and Utah.
Yeah.
Those are the only 2 states in the nation
state's got more
that don't have
form
some
of gambling.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
It's the question is we weren't ready for what happened.
Well, as Nick said, the gambling business, the people that ran these operations were very short-sighted. All they saw was the profits on a daily basis. They had no vision for the future. When something opened, as Nick said, no one cared. Oh, it's not going to affect us. It's not going to affect us. Because they were very self-absorbed about their own success. They didn't care about the community. They didn't care about Atlantic City. They didn't care about their employees. It was a very negative situation. You had to be in that culture to understand what I'm talking about.
But you know, if you look at, okay, and as you know, you can tell, I'm not an expert on this or a specialist. I'm learning on this. What changed Vegas from casinos to
I'll tell you what changed
to a community, to a business, to an environment, to an entertainment venue?
Because they supported gaming. Here in the state, we are lock jammed in politics. The reason why we're not being able to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish on a very immediate basis is because the political situation, South versus North, North versus South. I have the power to put this up. I have the power to stop this. It's not about what's best for the state of New Jersey. If we were concerned about good policy instead of politics, we would have already had those casinos in North Jersey. We might have been able to do something for Monmouth or whatever, but we would have made changes. They might not have been perfect, but we have roadblocks politically, and let's face it, that's what's stopping.
If you look at Nevada, it's a one-issue state, gaming. Their whole thing goes around gaming, okay? And it's one thing to build a gaming in a desert, and it's another thing to build it in an urban setting with all the issues that go with it.
But you know, but an urban setting has a need for jobs.
I understand that, but there's a lot of look. When the gaming issue passed, we promised too much and delivered too little. Okay, they wanted to get it done. So now you're in a lot of people felt there was an entitlement, and we let them believe that, right?
It's very interesting. Nick makes a great point.
We let them believe that, and they're saying, "Well, where's this all coming from? Where are we getting our end?"
When Atlantic City had a monopoly until a few short years ago, in 2008, they did $5.2 billion. And you know what Vegas did? When I asked this question, I talked to John Corzine about this. I asked him, "Do you know how much Nevada does in gaming?" The exact same amount Atlantic City does, but here's the difference.
Non-gaming.
They do double the number in non-gaming, meaning hotel rooms and conventions and restaurants.
And which creates lots of jobs.
So what happened is the Atlantic City casino industry, which, by the way, really emanates from Vegas. Most of those properties are owned by Vegas interests. They didn't reinvest in the city, the infrastructure, the safety and security. They pulled all the resources out. And now you look at most of those rooms, save one or two properties, and you wouldn't let your cat or dog stay in those rooms, let alone yourself.
And for that reason, there's a need to increase the discussion. And next week, we're going to follow up with more discussion on gaming and also about fantasy sports and off-track betting and jobs and everything else. So we'll continue. I'll see you next week when we continue on the show.
See you next week.